Oh, we got GoPro action in. I got my phone on live. Just want to record this. Hello, fellow Americans. My name is Sam Azar, and I want to make two big, bold claims, today, and see what happens with it. Get it off my chest somewhat. One of them happens to do with the Declaration of Independence. I actually believe my location, my house, is the location of two major events, and it led up to the formation of the Declaration of Independence. I sincerely believe that. This is after over a decade of research, because I was born on this plot. That made me research it from various things that came up. So in regards to the Declaration of Independence, some people could speculate it was the Boston Tea Party, the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, whatever it was, where the colonists decided to break from the British who ruled over us, And if you go through some history books, they'll usually bring it back to 1763 with the Paxton Boys in December, what they did to the Conestoga Indians. And but what I'm going to uncover here actually, gives you the reason why they even did it. I mean, you got to follow the money. And I believe that what I uncovered here is the location of the walk-in purchase of 1737, where Thomas and Richard Penn, the sons of William Penn, they had the infamous walk-in purchase in September 19th, 1737. Three runners. I'm just going to mention their names. They participated in it, and Edward Marshall, who ended up winning, Solomon Jennings, who stopped down at the river about 10 miles from here, the Lehigh River, and Ed Yates. And then there were three Indians that accompanied them on that walk-in purchase route. John Combush, Joe Tuneman, and Tom, Joe's brother-in-law. So three Indians and three colonists, along with about a dozen men on horses. I'm going to say their names: Timothy Smith, John Chapman, Alexander Brown, Nicholas Skull, Benjamin Eastburn. He was in charge of the survey general. He was the survey general in charge. When you want to plot out your land, they walk with chains, and they mark it out. And matter of fact, the guy who won, Marshall, he was one of them. He ended up winning, of course, but if you call it winning. John Hyder, Ephraim Goodwin, Joseph Knowles, Thomas Furness, and James Steele. So that infamous walk, which was fraudulent, caused a big uproar. Nothing went well from 37. A lot of things developed. And then in 1763, on October 8th, there was a massacre that was described right here in Allen Township around the same location. If those would look it up, like wherever the walk-in purchase, wherever they rested. They don't even know where they rested. Imagine a dozen guys, three runners, and three Indians. They go 40 miles from north of Philly, and they don't know where they slept all night. There's a reason why, and that's part of this is why I'm bringing all this up, is because I believe it was all part of something that was, wasn't done by the rulers, and it didn't go over well, so they tried to cover up the whole story. I fundamentally believe that prior to the Paxton Boys, what gave them the energy, which is the money, to pay for scalps and begin to eradicate the first people, the natives, the Indians, because the walk-in purchase of 1737 was meant to be a line. I'm talking to you from my house and the road that's going by, the cars driving by. Not sure if that's picking up in the video, but that would have been the walk-in purchase line, and then the Indians would have lived on the other side. Chief Lapawinza was the chief at the time of the local tribe. And it's kind of funny, there's a tavern down there called Lapawinza. But so in 1763, what happened then, here's the key point about this whole thing. After the French and the English, the French and Indian War against the English, after it was concluded, they won, and they did a treaty in Paris in February 1763. And they probably decided what they were going to do here. They're going to move the proclamation line over by Pittsburgh and then all the way down along the Appalachian. So whatever line that was here in 37, they were going to then obviously move the rest over to the proclamation line. Well, here's the thing. October 8th is the Stenton massacre. It's 1763. You can look something like this up. And I believe that's the location of my house right here, which is also the same location. I'm not sure if you can tell, this is the crest of a hill, but we are on a hill. And that's where the walking purchase, where they came up the hill after 40 miles. Benjamin Eastburn is noted as saying, you know, hurry up, guys. You know, we want to finish this up. It's time to go to bed here, get some rest, and we'll start the next day. They did 40 miles. You know, and they did a practice walk, and they almost did a walk 2 years prior to this. So they probably did this a couple times, and they knew exactly where they were going to stop. They had it all planned out. So I'm trying to say that my home is the location of the walking purchase where they stopped. I'm trying to say that the British who led the place, they built Stenton's Tavern in the summer of 63. They built a tavern, probably to commemorate the place right after they won the French and Indian War. And then it was reported that in October, not even 2 months that the thing was built, it was supposedly attacked. Yeah, I'm going to read to you about attack, but I want to show you some things. I just want to show you, you know, some stuff I got here. You know, it comes out of these books, all the deeds, property records, and things like that to research this kind of stuff. You know, the history headlines, local. It's even in the Gazette, Benjamin Franklin's Gazette. This whole Stenton massacre, you know, it's in there. And I kind of like want to say something about it, because the Declaration of Independence, there's a certain line in there, and it says this, one of the grievances: he has excited domestic insurrections against us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an indistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. Well, that's what they put in the Declaration of Independence. That's what they say. The colonists are saying that's what the British ruled government was doing with the Indians against us, and you know, and that was just, you know, and that's what led to the breakaway, part of it, you know, amongst other things, taxation without representation, you know, the whole 9 yards, all of it. But that's kind of critical, what I just said there in the Declaration of Independence, because I believe this whole event, the location where I'm at, it was a false flag operation, because in October 7th, 1763, the Royal Proclamation was actually given publicly amongst the colonies. October 8th is the actual Stenton massacre, where a dozen Indians, you know, they surprised the tavern in the morning, and they killed about 20 people. Actually, I just want to read this. So on October 8, 1763, the Destroying Angels visited Stenton's Tavern. A group of local militia was there, commanded by Captain Jacob Wetterholt. Early that morning, Wetterholt asked his servant to go get his horse. On opening the door, the man was shot dead. Another shot mortally wounded Wetterholt. A sergeant was also wounded. These are the British who were kind of protecting the area along the frontier. An Indian spotted John Stenton as he was getting out of bed and shot him. According to a contemporary account, he was able to escape and run a mile before he dropped dead from a loss of blood. His wife and children were safe in the basement. That story don't even make sense. Though wounded, Wetterholt was able to shoot through a window at an Indian attempting to set the tavern on fire, killing him. With that, the Indians fled. So the remnants. So where is Stenton's Tavern? Nobody knows. Okay, so over the rest of the day, at least 23 local people who had nothing to do with Stenton's actions against them. Well, this is in a previous story. They like to say that at Stenton's Tavern they were picking on the Indians, ripping them off, and then they came back and did this. It's all mumbo jumbo. They would be killed by the Native Americans before they left the region. Wetterholt was taken to Bethlehem's Crown Inn, where he later died. I actually always wanted to know that, is he still buried at Sun Inn down in Bethlehem right now? Anyway, the Indian raids through the Lehigh Valley into chaos. Fearful farmers and their families were convinced that they were about to see a repeat of the French and Indian War. They flocked into Allentown, disrupting the service being held at a log church located where Lehigh County's parking garage is today. Bethlehem was also besieged by refugees. Calls were made to Governor James Hamilton, and he ordered 800 militia troops to be raised, but it was all for naught, for the Indians never returned, and apparently no one thought it was worthwhile to chase them. They thought it was over. So they believe that, let me continue here. What did help fuel a reaction by the settlers in the western part of Pennsylvania, who were known as the Paxton Boys? That December, they massacred some peaceful Christian Indians in Conestoga jail, where they had sought protection. They didn't even fight back. They were just innocent Indians there, and they just killed them. They based their action on testimony by Mrs. Stenton, that a Moravian Indian, Renatus from Bethlehem, had plotted the attack on the inn. Renatus was later tried and released. Only the actions of Benjamin Franklin kept the Paxton Boys from trying to do the same thing in Philadelphia. If one Indian injures me, this is Franklin, does it follow that I may revenge that injury on all Indians, he asked them. Franklin's question was to haunt relations between the whites and Indians until the official end of the frontier 130 years later, in 1893. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is, here in Allen Township, there's a sign by the creek on both sides, and then the road kind of follows through here, where the walk-in purchase, where they slept for the night, but they don't know exactly. And then when you talk to some historians and other people, they tell you, oh yeah, they're probably on their horses. They probably went down to the creek. Okay, look, now with the aid of GPS and looking down on things and the common knowledge of the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You don't go zigzagging to come here. You're trying to win the most for the crown, starting from Wrightsville, Philadelphia, and you're trying to shoot a straight line. And then you cut a 90-degree angle at the end. They went to the Delaware River and they took all that land. Now, it's even reported the actual compass directions, and even looking at it, it's a perfectly straight line practically all the way. And if you look at this area where the creek is, it's about 3/4 of a mile. So you're going to tell me they're going to walk and then they're going to walk over to a creek and then come back? No. They had a dozen horses with them with food and water. They knew exactly what they were doing. They came to the top of the hill, because it's in the book here. It's even in this book, you know, where Benjamin Eastburn says, Ed Marshall's kind of, crawling up there. He's tired. He's leaning on a tree. He says, come on, we're almost there, guys. Let's finish up. We'll finish up the end of the day. So it's on top of a hill. All right. So, Stenton's massacre, a local historian wrote about the history. He said, we believe that it was near these power towers next to the fire company. Well, that's my house. And that's what got me into investigating things. And I ended up going to the archives down in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the capital of Pennsylvania. And well, I talked to somebody down there, Mark Stayer. Anyway, he gave me a map that showed that it was Linford Lardner's land, which was given to him by Thomas and John Penn, the sons of William Penn. They're the Esquires, true and absolute proprietors, and governor-in-chief of the province of Pennsylvania and counties of Newcastle, Kent, yada yada yada. They give it to Linford Lardner, 175 acres. Deed A11-162 in the Bucks County, November 1st, 1741. A few years after the walk-in purchase, but he was already here in 1730. Linford Lardner, who's he? Well, William Penn had three sons, I believe, and one of them married Linford Lardner's sister. So who's Linford Lardner? Well, Linford Lardner became part of the government down here. He used to run the ballrooms. President Trump is now rebuilding a ballroom. Well, the ballrooms down in Philly back then was run by Linford Lardner. And Linford Lardner was also, he gave the Marines their blue color. I like to add that because I'm a Marine and I kind of think that's interesting. But of other things, he was also an avid hunter. His hunting cabin's still here in Allentown. But most importantly, because of that map that I uncovered from, it's called the Penn Papers. I just want to show you a picture of it here. Well, it's in the Penn Papers. Oh, didn't I bring that one now? Well, I kind of winged this whole thing, but there's a map. I have it. and it tells you it's Linford Lardner's land, and you know, it's all coordinated with that 175 acres, the exact location. And it was the archives department that kind of, you know, they said that your property seems to lie right exactly on it, and nobody knows that it was Linford Lardner's land. The deeds, the deed books I showed you, that he ended up transferring it over to the Allison brothers, yada yada yada, and it went all the way up to me. You know, I'm like the 9th person to own this place. However, his name was on it. So why would he even want this up here? I'm only a couple acres here, and 170. Why would he want the crest? And think about it. Here's the guy who was in charge of the hunting fox club, the ballroom. You know, that type of person. He's got a hunting lodge here in Allentown, and this. Hey, think about it. Where they rested for the walk-in purchase, and then they wanted to commemorate it after they won the French and Indian War. They put a Stenton's Tavern up right at the exact same location. Why not? That's what the winners do, you know. Did the Indians come and burn it down out of revenge? I think it was a false flag operation, because again, October 7th is the proclamation given to the colonies. October 8th is the attack. October 9th, and here we go, in the Philadelphia, in the Bucks County Register, Linford Lardner is registered, signing off, authorizing money for scalps for women, men, and children. And that's what fuels the Paxton boys in December. That's what fuels all the, you know, to push them out. That, you know, people don't just do it for nothing. They got paid for it. So the bold claim that I'm trying to say is that, well, this is our 250th anniversary for the Declaration of Independence. And there's even a statement in there that says, you know, about the merciless savage Indians, that they'd like to say that that's what it was, you know, that that the king was inflicting that upon the colonies, you know. And then I believe that I did uncover that with Stenton's massacre. I believe that that was actually done by the British, probably. And but if not, you know, it's not, but it looks like it is. But that's my claim. And the claim is, and I still have the remnants of the beams, I believe, you know, that are still using this house. I mean, you have to look at the whole location, exactly where it is. It's kind of perfect. The walk-in purchase is 1737. Stenton's massacre in 63, and all of it. And if it wasn't for pulling up that map that shows it was Linford Lardner, it really ties it all together, like who actually owned the land at the time. You know, they're trying to say Stenton owns the land. You know, it's just mumbo. And they said that Stenton actually lived, you know, down along the valley on the other side. He would come here every day maybe to run the inn. And that might be true, but he didn't own it. You know, who owned the land? Who was that person? So that's my bold claim. What do I want out of it? If it was ever true? Well, you know, I mean, maybe the borough and the municipality could rake the leaves in the fall. You know, it's tough, and maybe I don't have to pay taxes or something here, property taxes. It's a historical place. Who knows? Whatever. I mean, I've been doing this since 2018. You know, and the reasons why, it was multiple reasons, and but this is where I came to, and I just wanted to disclose this, and that's my first claim. That's my bold claim. And I guess I'm trying to do everything for the America's 250th. And since we're talking about anniversaries, my second bold claim, and I've been saying this for 20 years, this is now 20 years now, I can't believe it. I did an experiment for nuclear fusion. I wrote it all, and I put it all on there for free. I actually hand-built the Tesla coil myself, the whole 9 yards, and I developed an ideology which is similar to cold fusion. It looks like it on the surface, using deuterated water, D2O. You know, H2O has no neutron attached to it. It's heavy water. It has a neutron attached to it, but it's not like cold fusion where they use the electrodes are like more like a catalytic converter. You know, where that is used to bend the atoms, I guess, and make fusion. I have nothing to do with that whatsoever. My ideology is, with reference to a Tesla coil, is high voltage and frequency, usually in the kilohertz. That's the Tesla coil back there. You know, that red thing, that's one of the ones I built, but that was one of the successful ones, close to about 900,000 volts it generated. But anyway, high voltage and frequency. And what I want to impress upon anybody who knows electrical and you know, in the scientific realm here, is that I'm focusing on, again, well, let's talk about the actual fuel load, which is D2O. Imagine a water vessel, a pressurized water vessel, such that they have heavy water reactors already with heavy water. Rip out the fission assemblies, just with the concentration of the fuel in it, which is water, but D2O, special type, with electrode assemblies. Between the electrodes, one must only think of the electric field with voltage and frequency in regards to resonance to impinge upon it for a magnetic effect. It's called the Bennett pinch, which is used in the fusion world, in the ITR world. Now, I did this experiment. I couldn't afford enough D2O. I mean, it's probably like $50 a gram. Oh, and an interesting side note, I bought it from United Nuclear in 2006, right before the experiment, and that's from Bob Lazar, the UFO guy. You know, and that's another story that could go down a rabbit hole. But the point being is, you know, it took everything I had 20 years ago. I was 41. That was the peak of all my science, you know, that even leads you up to something like that. And it was just to portray an ideology. It's not cold fusion, you know, in the early days of the internet, MySpace and other things, you know, when you're not funded at all. And I did everything on my own, hand built everything, and the ideology and all the you know, the years of acquiring knowledge just to even think of the idea, then actually build it on your own. It took me all that to do that, and I was on the internet doing something. I was just trying to promote it, trying to provoke people to actually just repeat the experiment, prove me wrong, right? I mean, I'd rather prove me right. I mean, the energy crisis could have solved the global energy crisis with no greenhouse gases. It's nuclear fusion. It seems too simple on the surface to talk about that, but in reality, of course, it would be extremely difficult. You know, well, it would be manageable. It's a different way of attacking it. Again, a pressurized water vessel, which is the heavy water is the fuel, with electrode assemblies in a high voltage. What does high voltage means? It means it's going to move the charged particles, and they're going to have a magnetic field. And in that combination of such, there's a magnetic pinch. This is already described. Those in science, in fusion, kind of know what I'm referring to. But it is in that regard. And if external magnetism needs to be impressed upon it, well, that's fine. That's all in testing and all that sort of stuff. But I could not do that on my own. I only did what I could. I really thought it would have been repeated by now. I guess it's hard to find people to try and do a high voltage experiments. Plus, you got to be funded, you know, to some degree, you know. I'm hoping that this video goes out there to some billionaire, somebody out there. You know, man, look, I don't want you. I'm not asking for money. I put all my ideas out there for free, you know, under this name or under Noble Fuels. And I just want you to repeat the experiment. Get a high voltage Tesla coil, build it. Begin to do experiments, but on pure form of D2O. I had like 2 grams, $100 worth, inside ultra reagent grade water, and I busted an arc. I did an experiment, you know, do something like that. You know, and you know, I hardly had any test equipment. Right? Look, I was just trying to portray the ideology of fusion. Azar fusion model, somebody coined it that. I could never get on Wikipedia and other things. You need a third party. Look, I don't know anybody. I got some friends, I got family, but you know, somewhat limited. I went as far as I can. It is what it is. It's the 20th year anniversary of that. I just wanted to make that as a statement, and again, another bold claim that I honestly believe, and for 20 years, because I've been looking at it for 20 years, this whole time, every angle of it, and even reports, scientific reports in different areas that kind of relate to this, it just seems to reinforce it. So on the 20th year anniversary of that, I'd like to say that I do fundamentally believe that that is the road to clean energy. And if it's ever proven true, well, you're welcome. And it was fun going down that path to do it. It's been a little rough the past 20 years trying to promote it, push it, see if it goes anywhere. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm just grateful. It's the year 2026. We're going to do America's 250th. I did some anniversary things here, and you know, it's all good. And if it goes anywhere, great. And well, that's all I could say. God bless America, and I wish everybody well. Thank you very much.